In this video, I'm going to walk you through the ideal Facebook ads campaign structure, what's working right now, why the old rules have changed, and exactly how I would build campaigns if I was starting from fresh today. If you've ever been unsure how many campaigns, how many ad sets or ads that you should run, I'm going to break this down in plain English for you. No jargon, just what you need to know to get results faster and cheaper right now. So section 1, why campaign structure matters. Your campaign structure is basically the foundation of everything that you do with Facebook ads. If you get it wrong, you will confuse Meta's algorithm and you're going to waste your budget and slow down your learning. But if you get it right and Meta knows exactly what you want, it can find your ideal audience quicker and optimize for the best cost per result possible. So a quick reality check for you. Meta's AI has changed a lot in the past year. Audience targeting is less about micromanaging your interests and more about giving Meta clean, consolidated data. And that is where your campaign structure comes in. So section 2, the old way versus the new way. Now, in the old days, and by that I literally just mean a couple of years ago, a lot of us would run, for example, one campaign per offer or product, 3 to 5 ad sets per campaign, each with different targeting and multiple ads per ad set. And this was great for testing because you could see exactly which audience or creative was performing the best. The problem now is that audiences massively overlap and Meta's detailed targeting expansion is often forced switched on. So multiple ad sets can mean fragmented data and slower learning. That's why the ideal modern structure often means fewer ad sets, fewer variables, and more budget consolidation. So let's go through a more modern core structure. So section 3, the core structure. Here's what I'd run for most businesses selling directly to cold audiences, selling things like products, services, lead generation, etc. So number 1 is campaigns. I would have one campaign per objective. So if you have an objective to make sales directly through the website, have one sales campaign under which you manage all of your adverts intended to drive these sales. If you want to also drive website inquiries, you may need to also run a leads campaign, so that would be a separate campaign. If you want to drive leads but measure a different leads conversion, for example, for one type of sale you might want to drive leads through the website and another you might want lead on a form submission through Facebook, you'll need different campaigns to do this. Generally, limit the amount of campaigns you have and only create new ones when you want to run different campaign types with different objectives in mind. Otherwise, consolidate your budget into as few campaigns as you can because that allows Facebook to really drive lots of data. So number 2, ad sets. Really, the ad set level is all about the audience. So do stick around and pay attention to this section because if you get it wrong, it will waste loads of your money. Now you're going to want one ad set for a cold audience and you can restrict your audience so it only targets cold customers, but mostly this isn't necessary and the algorithm will bake a little bit of retargeting into that cold audience targeting. But mainly it will go after cold customers. Then you're going to want another ad set for a warm audience. And that means that anybody who has had contact with your business, watched your videos, visited your website, etc., can have specific ads tailored to them. Now you can also target people at various other stages of the funnel, such as people who've added to cart but didn't go on to purchase, or people who submitted themselves as a lead but didn't go on and become a customer. Bear in mind that for you to be able to successfully target these audiences, the audience size needs to be big enough. Technically, you can retarget if the audience size is at least 1,000 people, but personally, we find it really struggles with such a small audience size. That said, it is worth you testing. So just bear in mind with your budget, if your budget is targeting a small audience size, you could notice your frequency goes up super high really quickly, which leads to ad fatigue and ad blindness. So get your budget right depending on your audience size and keep an eye on that frequency. So frequency is a funny thing to monitor, and if you want that, you just click on the little plus side at the right hand side and you search in for frequency and you can see. Frequency is how many times your average person has seen your ad for. And if it is in the range of 2 to 5, that's quite healthy. When you start getting beyond 5, it could be a sign that people are seeing your ads too many times and they're starting to get blindness. They're just starting to scroll straight on by. However, do bear in mind the performance, because we have campaigns that are running with frequencies of 10, 11, 12 that are still absolutely smashing the results. So it's not a hard and fast rule that if your frequency is above 5, 6, 7, then it's not going to work. Bear in mind the results. Look at those performance metrics. But generally speaking, if you've got a small audience with a big budget, your frequency is going to skyrocket and people are going to get fatigue very quick. So number 3 is your ads. Now, there's no exact correct figure here for the amount of ads that should be within each ad set. However, the big mistake that we see most advertisers make when they come to us and they say, my ads aren't performing, how do we improve, is they're just running one single ad. And when I was saying previously about fatigue, it's exactly the same problem. Every time people see the ad, it's just the same ad, the same copy again and again. And if it didn't convert them the first 3, 4, 5 times, why would it convert them the 10th, 11th, 12th? So what you need to do to overcome that is have at least 6 ads per ad set. And when I say ads, I'm really talking about the creative, because within each ad you get 5 copy variations, which is a fantastic opportunity to test different hooks, different messaging, different styles, short copy, long copy, with different calls to action in it. And the algorithm will then test your different copy variations with the different creative variations to find the best combination that's driving the result that you want. So as a general rule, create 6 different ads that has 6 different creatives. And then your ads want to be a good mix of video, single image, collection ads, and carousel ads, reel ads. You want a good mix of lots of different stuff in there so the algorithm can match the right copy with the right creative, with the right ad type to your audience. Some people are going to identify better with carousels, other people are going to watch more videos, and that's just how it is. And if you have a mix of that, you can cater for them all. So we have some campaigns that perform with as many as 30 different ads in that ad group, and that really isn't a problem. These campaigns work fantastically well, but they do have a higher budget. What that means is during the learning phase, the algorithm can calculate which images, which ads, which copy variations are working best, and then it restricts the others. So although you might start with 30 different ads and you might be spending $5, $10, $20,000 a month, however, what the algorithm is soon going to do is you'll end up with about 6 to 8 best performers that are just going to be shown, and the rest will pretty much be killed off. Now, if you're not running with a high budget, if you're running with, say, under £1,000 or $1,000 a month, what I would suggest is you start with those 4 to 6 ads, and then every time that you run a campaign, you will soon determine which ones are working best. Then when you run your next campaign, so you park one campaign, you kill it, you turn it off, you build your new one, bring in 2 to 3 of your best performing images to your new campaign, you design some others. First of all, you really have to reflect on, what worked over here, what produced those fantastic creatives, why did they win? Create something similar and then run the campaign and the test again. This setup means Meta gets all of your budget on one ad set. It learns faster and avoids audience overlap when you're competing against yourself. So section 4, when to break the rules. Now, there are times where you'd run multiple ad sets. Now, if you're testing very different audience types, for example, the UK versus the US, if you've got totally different product ranges or offers, for example, a male range and a female range. Now, also, testing campaigns for new creatives might deserve their own campaign in their own right. So your winning ads don't just hog all of the budget. You might want to give some specific focus on your new creatives. So you can ensure new creatives get a fair test by turning your old campaign off and adding your new creatives with your best performing old creatives all into a single new ad set. However, the difficulty with that is many businesses rely on leads and sales from Meta, so they don't want any unnecessary interruption with their leads or their sales. If this is you, create a small test campaign or an ad set to test new creatives only. That way your other campaign can keep on running and keep on performing while you get the testing done underneath on a smaller budget. Section 5, budgets and learning phase. So let's talk budget. Meta's machine learning works best when each ad set is getting enough data. If you split your budget between 5 ad sets, each gets peanuts in terms of budget and takes weeks to leave the learning phase. Instead, give your one ad set enough budget to get at least 50 optimization events per week. That could be 50 purchases, 50 leads, or whatever your goal is. That, of course, is an ideal scenario, so don't forget that 50 per week is optimal. And your campaigns will still perform just fine within a learning phase, and even if they're learning limited, so don't panic about that. They won't perform as well, but they will still perform. So section 6, creative and testing approach. Your campaign structure is just the scaffolding. What really wins with meta ads is what you put inside it. So the biggest lever you have is testing and refining your creative, your marketing message, your offers, and even your landing page design. Meta's algorithm is powerful, but it can only work with what you give it. So if your ad grabs attention, your offer makes sense, and your landing page convinces people to take action, you'll see results. So keep tweaking those elements until you outpace your competitors who just set and forget their campaigns. So that's the structure that we're using in my agency right now for most of our client accounts. Fewer campaigns, fewer ad sets, stronger creative, and more budget behind what's working. Now, if you want my team to build and run this for you, there's a link in the description for a free strategy call. No pressure, just see if we're a fit. And if you found this helpful, hit subscribe because I've got more meta ads breakdowns coming, including my retargeting structure and a deep dive into testing strategies. So don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you soon.